Deep in the hills of southeast Ohio, a rising group of community leaders is setting out to build local, sustainable ways of life. Following decades of widespread logging, nonprofit organizations are working to protect the forests that are left. After the era of big coal, private businesses are accelerating the shift to renewable energy. In a time when small to mid-sized farms struggle to compete against big agriculture, communities are coming together to support local farmers. Throughout the region, people from all walks of life are making changes to create a more sustainable future and to change the footprint of the foothills. It might seem strange to go into the heart of coal country to learn about environmental sustainability, but we're looking for local solutions to the global crisis of climate change.
To me, taking care of the environment has always seemed so overwhelming, I've never known where to begin. I'm looking forward to meeting real people who are making a real difference. Let's start from the beginning. What is environmental sustainability?
A lot of people see sustainability as about the environment, and they say, well, that's just too expensive. We can't do that because that's too expensive. Well, if it's too expensive, then it's not sustainability. It might be very positive for the environment. It might be all about ecology and our natural world, but we can't just throw trillions of dollars at it to solve a problem. It has to make economic sense. And if we're doing anything that is harming people, then that's not sustainability either. We really need to look at not just the planet, but also society, and then also the economy. We have to think about decisions that benefit those three things equally, now and in the future.
In order to make decisions about the future, it helps to understand the past.
We did some research and found that around here, sustainability is closely connected to farms, fossil fuels, and forests. This area also has a history of wide-scale logging, which had a huge impact on the footprints of forests.
The forests of southeast Ohio are part of one of the oldest forest systems on the planet. It might not look like it now, but from the 1880s to the 1920s, most of the region's trees were cut down. Some land was cleared for farming. Other parts were prepped for development. Many places were logged for timber. By 1908, roughly 86% of the forests were gone. This kind of extensive logging has long-term effects on the environment. Plant species disappeared. Bison, wolves, and cougar have never returned. Still, the most long-lasting impact may be the least visible: the amount of carbon released into the atmosphere.
Deforestation is critically important. It is one major driver of climate change. It's a really complex system, and so carbon dioxide can be sequestered in what are called sinks, but really think of a tree, think of a forest. They hold carbon in, so it's not in the atmosphere, not playing this greenhouse gas warming role. And so when we cut down forests, we're actually releasing CO2 as well, carbon dioxide as well. So it's not just the burning of the fossil fuels, but it is the destruction of these other ecological systems. More forests means more places where carbon dioxide is sequestered or kept. Increasingly, we'll have to become much more creative, taking a long view of the positive impact that those forests are playing in the struggle against climate change.
As our society learns more about the significance of preserving forests, people are beginning to search for more sustainable ways to utilize them.
Traditional forestry tends to be practiced in this area where somebody will show up and say, I will give you money to cut the valuable timber off your property. And that tends to end up in a situation where the higher value timber is taken and what's left behind is lower quality, and it can leave openings that are taken over with invasive species and weedier species that are just not as good for forest health or for future economy. So sustainable forestry would look at how do we improve the forest over time? How do we engage in practices that mitigate invasives and that help the forest thrive and do well?
The sustainable use of forests does not necessarily mean leaving them completely untouched by human hands. It is about finding a balance point between the environment and the economy. In Southeast Ohio, sustainable forest practices can range from selective logging to harvesting non-timber products such as ginseng to preserving places for outdoor recreation.
The important thing is to be able to create that intersection between aesthetic and recreational value and that economic value, and I think sustainability is somewhere in the middle. Sometimes that does mean harvesting some trees, but we want to do that in a way that leaves the forest in a good condition, helps the forest get to a better condition. It's so rare to see great big trees anymore. 120-year-old trees are, for some species, they're like teenagers, you know? I mean, they could live 500 plus years, and it would be great to see that again while being able to generate benefits economically from the forest.
Today, many of the wildlands of the Ohio foothills are reaching enough maturity to be logged again, giving new urgency to the challenge to protect the footprints of the forests. To see sustainable forest uses firsthand, we visited the Arc of Appalachia, a network of 20 nature preserves spanning nearly 7,000 acres.
We are here to buy back the best of the remaining wildlands in southern Ohio and Appalachian Ohio and protect them forever and engage people in that forest education so that we become permanent caretakers and stewards. Protecting the forests that we have left that are healthy is the most important thing we can do. These forests must survive. We need them as much as they need us. Our strength in our ecological niche in the conservation community is that we're very people-oriented. We do not see people as the problem. We say if we're going to protect the land, we have to have people on it because we need their eyes and we need their love and we need a canvas for their furthering education. Working alone is not going to be enough. Well, I want to share the joy. It's just so beautiful.
Nancy said the best way to learn about the forest is to spend time in it. So we hiked one of the Arc's most popular trails with Tim Poehler. Tim showed us how to identify and remove invasive plants.
This is one of the invasive species that we manage for. This is the barberry. It's a non-native invasive species originally from Asia. As part of our efforts to help maintain rich and native biodiverse habitats and ecosystems, we remove these plants. Get a good grab on the roots, take off the dirt. And there you have it. That's it. Invasive Removal 101.
Beside the Rocky Fork Creek, he showed us the proper way to hug 200-year-old trees.
These big trees, they support a lot of life, so you don't just want a bunch of little ones, you want to maintain and push for these big, giant, old-growth trees. This is a very large, mature hemlock tree. You don't see very many in this size range. I don't know how many of these can you fit around here. Probably 2 hugs worth of a tree.
As we made our way back up the hill, Tim had one more surprise before we got off the trail.
This is the jewel weed. This time of year, it's the fall, seeds are coming ripe, and the seeds from the jewel weed taste like little hickory nuts. So you got these little seed pods. They literally explode. There we go, we got one. When they're a nice little brown seed, that's when a seed is ripe and ready to eat. Got a little crunch to it. Nutty.
Let's give this a shot. Okay, let's try one. You really can't taste that. It's good.
From logging to development, the forests of Appalachia face a growing number of threats. It is good to know at least 20 preserves, and counting, are in good hands. Even though you can see the forests above ground, one of the most influential natural resources in this area has been the coal below the surface. This region has long been known as coal country. Yet big coal left these parts decades ago.
This is Millfield, Ohio, a small town that may be best known for the worst mining disaster in Ohio history. Just outside Millfield, you can see Sunday Creek, which still glows bright orange from acid mine drainage 75 years after coal left town. Unfortunately, pollution like this is not the worst damage caused by the footprints of fossil fuels.
The foothills of Ohio have a long history with fossil fuels, including oil, natural gas, and coal. Coal has been used for energy on a small scale since the 1700s. In the 1800s, large-scale coal mining techniques helped give rise to the industrial age, powering everything from homes to factories to economies. From 1800 to today, the fossil-rich ground of Appalachian Ohio has produced 3 billion tons of coal. In the mid-20th century, the effects of coal on the environment were not well known to the public. But today we know more about the relationship between carbon and climate change.
Fossil fuels are central to driving the climate change challenge problem crisis that we have today. Fundamentally, it's a basic science issue of burning fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide that goes into the atmosphere and serves as a greenhouse gas and warms the Earth's atmosphere. Scientists are able to establish what impacts are due to humans and how it would be different under scenarios of natural variability.
Across southeast Ohio, big coal has not just been unsustainable for the environment, but also for the economy. For the most part, the jobs from coal are long gone. After the mines closed, communities were left with scarred landscapes, polluted streams, and more poverty. Today, local leaders are working to build a more sustainable economy for the environment and the people.
Appalachian Ohio has been a leader, an energy leader, for centuries, and we really feel like the next chapter is renewable energy. We absolutely are grateful for the sacrifices that have been made by many families and the coal miners who've, put their lives at risk to fuel the industries that have made America the prosperous nation that it is, but all the more reason for this region to benefit from this next chapter of energy. We want to continue to be leaders, and so this is critical work to build a renewable energy infrastructure here that not only powers our local communities, but can be a resource for our country.
Unlike fossil fuels, which take more than 50 million years to create, renewable energy comes from sources that can be more easily replenished. Sustainable energy takes different forms depending on where you live, from wind to geothermal to solar. In Southeast Ohio, one of the rising forms of renewable energy is solar, which works by using panels with special chemicals that react with sunlight to create energy. The technology for solar power has existed for several decades. It is stable, predictable, and getting cheaper all the time.
From a cost standpoint, it's now cheaper to build out renewable energy than it is to maintain most fossil fuel power systems in our country at this point. People are already paying electric bills. If you can find ways to where you're cost competitive, for instance, putting solar in your own home, and if you're in the situation where it's actually the same for you to finance a new solar system as it is for you to keep paying your electric bill month after month, then that's an incredible opportunity. We're at a point where the economics are there, the policy is getting there to where it all's lining up. And that's pretty exciting to see materialize.
In the past, the use of fossil fuels was often framed as a choice between the environment and the economy. But sustainable energy has the potential to power both. For these communities to thrive far into the future, they will need to step outside of the footprints of fossil fuels. To learn more about sustainable energy, we talked to the founders of Third Sun Solar, one of Ohio's leading solar installation companies.
Our mission is to accelerate the shift to clean energy. We kind of settled on that language because it implies that the shift is already happening and that the shift is inevitable. And so we're focused on accelerating it. For me, the number one driver, the number one benefit is that you get useful power without doing harm to others, without putting more and more CO and other byproducts into the atmosphere, raising global temperatures. The only cost that a solar system has is that first upfront cost of building the system and then a very minimum cost of potential maintenance over the lifetime, compared to a conventional fossil fuel system where you've got to build that first system and then you've got to keep buying that fuel year after year after year. Solar really drives just about everything on this planet. The fuel is free.
Just a few minutes away, Third Sun Solar was getting ready to install panels at the New Athens Emergency Medical Services station. We followed the architect on a tour through the building, which is being constructed to be the first net zero government building in Southeast Ohio.
What makes a net zero building is the ability for the building to use as much energy as it makes. That's accomplished by a number of architectural parts. One is the highly insulated nature of the building, the roof, the walls, the floors, all the way around. The other part is the passive solar design of the building. So it's oriented to the south. Most of the windows on the building are on the south. And then the solar panels on the garage roof is what balances out the whole system.
At the EMS station, we saw that sustainable energy is not just about the source of power. It is also about making a space more energy efficient. Having seen a net zero building still under construction, we went to see one that was already complete. The home where Third Sun Solar was first launched.
We're on our way to Jeff and his wife Michelle's home. I'm a little intimidated knowing they live in a net zero house, but I'm betting I can learn a lot from them about energy efficiency. Also, I think it's kind of cool that they live in Millfield of all places.
Hey. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Great.
You want to show me around?
Sure. So our house is primarily powered by solar. This is the south-facing roof. Up here we have 8 kilowatts of solar panels. The sun hits those panels, excites the electrons in there, it creates current, and it runs through a wire into our house and provides power for everything we do in there. So come on in.
Right.
We oriented the house to face south, and that's one reason is so that we could have a bank of windows on the south side of the house that could collect sunlight.
Okay.
We also built the house on a concrete slab so that in the winter when we do have sun coming into the house and we're collecting that, it heats that slab up, and it's called a heat sink. and it stays warm even throughout the evening into the night.
Oh, wow. I bet your cat loves that.
Yeah, she does. She does. And she also likes the wood stove. We put the wood stove in the center of the house and the chimney because, again, masonry, stone, and rock are heat sinks. So when we make a fire in the wintertime, this whole chimney area gets warm. And even when the fire goes out in the middle of the night, it still radiates warmth back out into the house. We can follow the chimney all the way up. This area is right above the wood stove. So as I said, the chimney goes all the way up through. And we have about a 4-inch slab here on top of the wood stove. So again, when we make a fire, this whole mass gets warm. We call this the hot seat.
This is where you'd find me all winter.
One of the reasons that we built this house this way and we put so much thought into the sustainability, and one of the reasons we started our business, is because we wanted to teach our kids that they could live alternatively and live comfortably and still play video games and still skateboard and still do all the things, but do it in a more thoughtful and a way that's less impactful on the earth.
From solar power to energy efficiency, future generations are likely to rely less and less on coal.
Even though coal gets a lot of press, there may be no view more iconic to this area than the sight of small farms. I've always thought of farms as places of hard work and a connection to the land, but there is a lot more to the footprints of farms.
The hills of southeast Ohio have been farmed for centuries. From native cultures to Scotch-Irish immigrants, generations of people have grown food on this rich landscape. It is a land of plenty. However, it has become increasingly difficult for small farms to compete with big agriculture. Today, about 58% of America's food production comes from just under 5% of America's farms. From methane to chemicals to transportation, industrial agriculture is one of the leading causes of greenhouse gas emissions each year.
Large-scale agriculture is leading to deforestation of some of the world's last great forests. And so even just preparing the land to convert to agriculture, and particularly these big monoculture approaches, means that we're losing the ability to sequester carbon, to keep carbon in trees and ecosystems. We know that agriculture in terms of livestock and animal-based protein has a huge carbon footprint. You have to grow a lot to feed the cows, a lot to feed the pigs. And then they also produce a notable amount of methane, which also serves as a greenhouse gas and so accelerates the problem.
In addition to environmental concerns, industrial livestock often live in cramped conditions and rarely get to go outside. The process is efficient and provides cheap meat as well as dairy products. Yet, even with this scale of mass production, big industrial farms still rely on government subsidies to help them underbid smaller competition, which threatens the future of more sustainable farming practices.
Sustainable agriculture is just about adopting practices that are going to work over the long run, that are going to build soil health, and that are going to help maintain the nutritional value of food. In a traditional economic model, you're looking at the financial bottom line, and that sometimes can drive decisions that are good in the short term for profit, but may be harmful in local communities in the long run. How do we make the best decisions for our community, for our local environment, and for the bottom line financially? There are a lot of people who are very interested in farming, but it's a tough business. So if we can help people connect to stronger markets and get a better price for what they're doing, it's going to help them continue to farm over the long haul and hopefully do it in a way that is really nurturing the land rather than just getting what they can out of it and moving on.
The geography of southeast Ohio is not well suited to sprawling industrial agriculture, but it is perfect for small to mid-sized farms. These smaller farms can make a smaller footprint on the environment, and many small farmers choose to employ sustainable practices. The flavors of milk and beef they produce are uniquely tied to the land where they are grown. They also reconnect people to the chain of supply. Instead of buying food in a box with no idea where it came from or who made it, people can meet the farmers on the streets of their town. And instead of sending proceeds to large corporations several states away, smaller farms keep money in local communities.
This used to be an area with a lot of dairy farms and what people have referred to as like the agriculture of the middle. Right now, we basically have small farmers and really big farmers. It's important to grow that ag of the middle because those are the farms that can send their kids to college, sustain a family, etc. I think in an area that's as impoverished as we are, it's important to try to make every economic opportunity you can.
In Southeast Ohio, small to mid-sized farms struggle to compete against the lower prices of industrial farms. If steps are not taken to create a more equitable market, big agriculture could stomp out the footprints of smaller farms. To experience sustainable farming for ourselves, we followed the process all the way from farm to table, and brought our 3 youngest daughters along for the ride.
As a farmer, you live and breathe the animals and the crops and the soil and the fresh air. There's a more risk to do it the right way and sometimes more cost, but it's a trade-off. So the grazing certainly, especially at our scale, is very unique. Our calves are grown outside, and even the older cows getting out of the barn 6-8 months of the year. They're just healthier animals. Coordination and better bone density, and they just live a longer, more productive life. They just love to be outside.
The quality of the milk's better, it's cleaner, you know what the source of it. It's going to be a fresher product. We can give you those things.
Alan and Sharon took us outside to meet a 2-day-old calf, who had not quite gotten the hang of walking.
No!
The ability to walk around and graze on the grass makes the cows happier, and the milk healthier. Most of the time, the cows are still milked by a machine. But Lily and Lori learned how to do it the old-fashioned way.
Squeeze. There you go. I got 2 good helpers now.
Having local dairy takes more than just farmers to raise cows. There also need to be people who are willing to purchase and process the milk. So we headed over to the Snowville Creamery, which is dedicated to processing local, grass-grazed dairy from Clover Patch and other farms.
We knew it was a superior product and that it's better for the cows, and that was what originally motivated us to try this model. We want the cows to have a good life, and we want to produce a really good product that's the best we can for the people that are consuming it for our community.
Snowville creates 14 kinds of dairy products, from milk to yogurt to cheddar crisps. Snowville's philosophy is simple: better for the cows, better for the planet, and better for you.
You're not just buying a carton of milk. You're not just buying a carton of yogurt. You are investing in people's lives. You're investing in families. You're investing in the future of the environment.
Just a few miles from Snowville, we met a local farmer who raises native fruit trees.
The way you live has an impact on your community. It's all connected. what we've done with Integration Acres is we've focused on what we've got. And we've got these incredible native plants. We've got some of the best pawpaws in the whole world. It's about working with nature. And that's philosophically a big part of what Integration Acres tries to do. When you work with nature, I mean, nature's a very powerful force.
Walking through the grove of pawpaw trees, I was stunned by the size of the fruit. Pawpaws have the taste and texture of a natural smoothie. And Vivian was a big fan. In addition to pawpaws, Chris keeps a herd of goats to make cheese, and to keep enough flies around to pollinate his pawpaw trees. But of course, these goats weren't kept in a pen. The goats like to hang out all the way at the top of the farm. We set out on an expedition to reach them. But as soon as we made it, they moved. And every time we caught up to them, they moved again. Finally, Chris employed a genius strategy to get them to like us.
I like this one. Oh, whoa! Fun. Oh gosh. That was awesome.
Small farms like Integration Acres provide jobs across Southeast Ohio and generate money to support their local communities. But it is not enough to sell to the occasional documentary filmmaker. It may not always be possible for smaller farms to compete directly with big agriculture, but with the support of a community, they can still succeed on a smaller scale. Fortunately for this area, there is a network of people who are building creative ways to support small farms. In operation since 1972, the Athens Farmers Market opens every Saturday to connect local farmers to the community. Here, we began to see the impact a community can have on sustainable ways of life. Local producers come together to draw a crowd. Customers ask farmers questions about their products and talk like old friends. On a Saturday morning in the fall, we went shopping.
It's extremely important to the Athens area as well as the surrounding communities. You're supporting all kinds of local businesses, up to 50 to 60 businesses a week.
Selling products directly to individuals is a good start, but in order to succeed, many farmers need bigger customers. The Chester Hill Produce Auction brings farmers together to sell larger quantities of food to local schools and organizations.
The thing I like best about it is it came from the community. I didn't know what a produce auction was, so it was people's ideas who were rooted in it, way invested in it, to work together as a team. We needed an aggregation point. Multiple producers coming together to build capacity, to draw more consumers, to serve the bigger markets. Small farmers feed the planet. Just gets down to the old triple bottom line. Good for the environment, the economy, and the community. The most important thing is we're putting money into the farmer's pocket and fresh local produce out into the community.
Finally, it helps farmers to have other businesses in their community who value local food. On a brick street in Athens, Casa Nueva has been using local food to prepare their meals for 35 years.
If things that we need for our menu are available locally, we get them locally. We're supporting the farmers and they're supporting us, so we keep them in business and they keep us in business. It just feels natural and it just feels right. Really just having confidence in your own community, knowing what it can do, what it can produce, how it can sustain you and you can sustain it, I think is really important and really cool.
In the name of research, we decided to test the quality of local ingredients.
I could research local foods all day long.
I can tell this comes from happy cows.
I can taste the sustainability.
Having followed the process of sustainable farming from field to meal, we sat down with an eco-theology professor to reflect on how the whole community helps support sustainability.
Sustainability is learning to live in respectful relationship with the environment. Know that you are not doing this alone. There are a great number of programs existing already, many of which are small, locally run initiatives focused on sustainability. We are often under the impression that there is nothing around, but they are around.
When our time in Appalachian, Ohio came to an end, I headed home to look for the sustainable initiatives in my own community. I have spent most of my life thinking the environment is a problem too big to do anything about. But down in the hills of southeast Ohio, it doesn't feel that way. There are people who raise money to buy back forests and make them accessible with trails. A solar company started in an attic can become one of the renewable energy leaders in the state. Small and mid-sized farms raise cows, goats, and surprisingly delicious native fruits. Customers chat with the farmers who grow their food. The economy is adapting to support small businesses. And environmental activism never tasted so good. Together, charitable organizations, farmers, and everyday people are working hard to change the footprint of the foothills. Something all these people agree on is that one individual person can make a difference. But it takes an entire community to make local and sustainable a way of life.